Here.
Guzikowski here.
Richards here. Seifert here.
Segala here.
Approval of minutes from 10/12. Any changes or corrections? Any spelling?
I didn't find any this time. Sorry about that, gentlemen.
No, you don't have to be sorry. That's correct.
Seifert moves to approve the minutes of 10/12/2021.
Roll call.
Can you make that motion?
Yeah. Can I make it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have the full complement.
We have, I think you can only act if no one's
I
here.
can't.
One of them is here, right?
Yeah, did we have the full complement last meeting? I'm not. Or was someone missing?
Last meeting, yeah.
Somebody else would have to make the motion.
Right, Fred. Gail moved to approve minutes of 10/12/2021. Sorry.
Roll call.
Gail, aye.
Guzikowski, aye.
Richards, aye.
Segala,
Review, common council, public works and capital assets.
yeah, so just a few items here in the last couple council meetings, and I think everybody is aware of two of them. We did, in fact, approve an award of professional services contract to Edgerton in an amount not to exceed $878,000. This is part and parcel of the Lakefront project, where we had that really awesome partnership with MMSD to receive clean soil from their project near Wilson Park in the city of Milwaukee. So we did follow through on that. There'll be, Mike, you can give some more particulars on timeline if it's required, but again, $878,000 to receive that soil, continue going with the clean cap on the city's portion, and that is also part and parcel of the bluff stability project that we have our eyes on in the more immediate term now that we have our TID donation strategy coming down the pike as well. Just in order of magnitude, I mean, if the city would have went out and sourced its own clean soil for that project, the engineering team estimated that was probably about a $3 million savings, and we would still have the cost to handle it. So really a net savings of up to potentially $3 million for our taxpayers and our tax increment district. So really excellent job, well done sourcing that and getting that partnership. Second project, a little bit over $57,000 award of bid to Cornerstone Pavers LLC. We're redoing back portion of the parking lot at the police department headquarters near the dumpster area, redoing that in concrete. If you've been up there lately, we need to begin game planning for repaving the rest of it too. It's getting a little marred up, so we will begin game planning for that as well. And then lastly, I think you guys might be aware, but we appointed our assistant city engineer to serve as our city engineer after Mike's retirement in early January. So as of January 8th, Matt Sullivan will become the city engineer for the city of Oak Creek. We're really happy to have Matt ascending to that role, and I'm sure there'll be some occasion to bid Mike a proper goodbye here over the next 45 or 60 days. So
He'll have to change his first name, Brian.
I'm sure that will be a fun occasion or two. There's some other personnel stuff later on that we can talk about under the administrative and operations reports, but that's all from council.
Government. Motion to approve change order number 1 for a low lift drive maintenance project to CW Propero. Is that you?
Correct, yeah. So the low lift drive maintenance project, we've been working on some grading around the building to improve drainage over there. We've worked on some de-icing, a de-icing project, which includes drainage out by the front door of the building, and adding some security camera and lighting on the drive as well. In the course of this construction, when they were putting in the drainage around the door in that parking area or drive area, they came across an old electrical duct bank that was encased in concrete. That had to be identified, removed, and make room for the storm sewer. So there's extra work there for the contractor. We also had to extend, we chose to extend the under drain up the building in order to provide better drainage improvement there, get that water into the catch basin a little bit easier. And lastly, we upgraded, it was $500, we upgraded the concrete sealer that's being applied to that new concrete down there to make it better resistant to the salt that we apply to it, since we know we always get water from the wave action in that down there. We're applying a lot of salt to try and keep it safe. So this is going to help that new concrete out a little bit in its early life. The total for this change order is $7,200, $7,209.
Motion?
Richards will move. Love. 5 is listed.
Gale seconds.
Roll call.
Gale, aye.
Coleman, aye. Guzekowski, aye.
Richards, aye.
Number 6, consider a motion to approve the progress payment, number 1, to the below list station for TW Preparo.
So as it states, this is the first project payment for that project, $291,186.
Questions or comments?
Gale seconds.
Roll call.
Gale, aye.
Coleman, aye. Guzekowski, aye.
Richards, aye.
7, consider a motion to approve final payment for the Howell Avenue water main lining project to Mid-City.
So we did a water main lining project that's relatively new in our rehabilitation efforts. We thought we'd test it out. That's a great place to test it. It's sorted by Walgreens on the west side of the road, Howell Avenue, sorted by Walgreens headed north. We did that work. This is the final payment for that work. All the restoration's done. It was a successful project. The total here is $6,190.
Forward.
That, Mike, sorry. That took them, looks like it appeared longer than they expected.
Yes. Yeah.
Is that because of parts availability, or is there something else going on?
They ran into a few wrinkles. We did have a hydrant issue, but they ran into a few wrinkles with the line, literally wrinkles with the liner. It had a leak in it midway through, so they had to come back and identify where the leak was and then repair that portion. So yeah, it took them a lot longer than we hoped.
With that?
It actually turned us a little sour on that as a rehab method. It really wasn't great. It was okay, so it may have its place, but it's not something we would run to as our first option, I don't think.
From that standpoint?
Yeah, definitely, yes. Yeah, I know customers were affected by the outage,
Yeah.
so that's why we
I know,
chose that
that's why I
section.
chose it, yeah.
Yeah.
Alternatives out there that you can look at or not?
So we're still tracking this spray lining. That's not quite there for a structural repair yet. We're hoping something might happen. There's other liners that are coming into the market as well. So I think as that popularity grows in this area, throughout the country, it's used all over. So I think as we get more competitors in there, that's going to be beneficial to us as well.
I'll move to approve the final payment to Howell Avenue Water Main Lining Project to Mid-City Corp. in the amount of $6,190, sorry.
Seconds. Roll call.
Gale, aye.
Coleman, aye. Guzekowski, aye.
Richards, aye.
Number 8, consider a motion to approve the progress payment number 2 for the Lawson Avenue Water Extension Project.
So this project is creating a loop on the east side of Lawson, north side of the road, kind of by the Del Seaford trucking area, underneath the railroad tracks there. Provides a loop between the west portion, for us, the west portion of that zone and that eastern portion. They've run into quite a bit. In fact, we talked about it before where there was a line that wasn't shown before. The project was delayed while that got identified and relocated. We've now hit another snag where we're trying to get underneath the culvert there. There's the bridge over the top. We're trying to get underneath the culvert, keep running into the culvert structure. It doesn't have an identified bottom to it, so we've had to realign the plan a little bit. But this is just simply a project payment number 2 for this project, and it is ongoing.
What was the issue that they?
Well, we were directional drilling, so we hit the hit the bridge structure, go down a little bit, hit the bridge structure, go down a little bit, hit the bridge structure, go over a little bit. So we're not sure if we're hitting piling or bridge structure. At this point, you can't keep poking around. So we've chosen a different alignment that's going to take us up along side of the road and come back down. We won't hit it. We won't be directional drilling there, so we won't hit anything. And I think we asked the county for plans, but they would have taken several weeks to locate. And yeah, we didn't. 3 weeks. 3 weeks.
This year or next year?
Motion.
Bill move to approve the progress payment number 2 for the Lawson Avenue Water Extension Project to IFC Construction Company LLC in the amount of $222,363.55.
Richards will second.
Roll call.
Gale, aye.
Bowman, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Richards, aye.
And consider a motion to accept the water and sewer utility fiscal year ending 2020 audit as.
So I'm going to ask Derek, our county manager, to come up and discuss the audit a bit. We're not going to go through every page. It's quite a big packet on how the audit was conducted. I'll let Derek present.
Hey, guys.
Morning.
So what was included in the packet is what the auditors do as far as their required communication to this particular board. And I would say, does anyone have any questions on what goes into an audit?
Jump all the way to Appendix D, corrected misstatements. I didn't quite understand all that gibberish there.
So those were adjustments that they did. The first 3 were in regards to the WRS and the OPEB.
Is this an issue of the wrong numbers, or is it an issue of in the wrong classifications or something?
The first 3 I knew weren't done, and I asked them to do it for us. I just had trouble tying out the prior year work papers.
Is that a wrong number?
A wrong number? It was something that was never
Wrong
done.
value or in the wrong code?
It just wasn't done. We asked them to do it. So it was original work, I guess you might say.
Been required to do this before, Mike, or what's the story with that?
No, it's done. It's done on us. It's done by the city. It's something where we do an actuary study as part of our OPEB every couple of years. And then we have these government-specific entries. And the same thing for WRS. We adjust to Employee Trust Fund website, the numbers they put out. So like the WRS Trust Fund is audited every year. And then
You consider that a misstatement, even though they were doing the work for us?
yes, ideally it's something that we should have done, and they did. And then number 4 was part of our fixed assets, where they just wanted us, it was in regards
Is
to,
this something they do just to make themselves feel good, or what?
it's something, I mean, they have to do it, it's part of their job.
Yeah, they could have saved a lot of time, get rid of all the pictures, save a couple trees.
I agree.
I don't see any problems with this report.
I would say the main takeaways on page 10, they did an assessment of our internal controls, and they didn't think there was any significant deficiencies or,
Says,
and then our audit opinion was unmodified, which is the best.
good job, sir.
Thank you. It's hard to get modified, but thank you.
Well, Mike and Derek, will we see the same thing next year in whatever time they audit the WRS stuff again, or?
No, I think we'll do that in-house.
I believe, yeah. We will attempt to do it next year.
There was one issue, the new Gatsby rules, some of that stuff is like with leases. The city still pulls off a lot of leases. That's going to impact more with the city stuff. I'm not so sure about the water utility, but
The lease one is going into effect this year. So for 2021, that, I think it's GASB 86, that that will be in effect.
This, one shoe or the other.
And a lot of these, they're not really, they're not cash impact, they're government specific regulations where the Government Accounting Standard Board is trying to sound smart and coming up with things for everyone to do, basically.
Richards will make a motion to approve Baker's Tilly report.
Smelly second.
Roll call.
Eli.
Kowski, aye.
Richards, aye.
Smelly aye.
All right, motion, thank you.
Thanks. Motion to vouchers. 730.
Nothing particularly out of the norm on this voucher run.
Richards will make a motion to approve the utility payments as listed.
Seconds.
Roll call.
Eli.
Kowski, aye.
Richards, aye.
Smelly aye.
And then we were asked to move to hold 11 and 12 and move on to 13.
So this is the capital budget for the water and sewer side. What I dropped off for you first is a new cash flow statement. I'll refer to that when we get towards the end of it. It's an updated version, has a bit more information that I'll go through, but just know that that's there for you. So what we'll do is we'll have each department head come up and talk about the projects within their area. Brian will also talk about the citywide or the utility-wide projects, citywide projects, the actual construction projects that we'll be undertaking as well. And with that, I'll call Derek back up to start us off again on the administrative side.
So my only item is for new financial software. I believe our current software is MSI, and the utility started using it in 1995. And it is more than time for new software. I feel like it is outdated, and there are many features that we could gain by going to
Derek, can you pull that closer? No, sorry.
there are many features that we could benefit from going to a newer software. So if you read through it, we currently have two different softwares for our accounts payable, our general ledger, and our payroll are one, and then our utility billing, cash receiving, and accounts receivable are different. So I would like for the utility to use the same software for everything.
Did we make a mistake last year when we turned around and I don't know, spent like 50 grand on updating that utility software?
Yes,
So we,
Yeah, we did not make a mistake, but yes, we did do that, yeah.
this is separate from the utility software.
Yeah. And this integrates with that utility software.
so I'm missing it. Well, there was always kind of I wouldn't say disagreement, but a difference of opinion between the utility had to turn around and do a lot more bells and whistles with sending out billing statements, et cetera, than the city. And we always kind of wanted to blend those two, that they were going to be identical. But that was the big difference, was the utility ended up having to do the billing stuff. So we're still going to be running two systems then?
Yeah, to me, it's just a job function issue. It's what software handles the best for those job functions. And that's, it's no different than any other department that might have, like the rec department might have a RecPlex software or something like that functions with what their job function is. To me, that's the Casell product does a very good job of integrating with Badger meters. And when we bring the reads in from the meters, it goes right into the billing software now. That's integrated very well. This will now integrate on the other side So we're doing double entry now between the two softwares that we have. This would blend that better. Where we do still have a overlap, if you will, is on the payroll side, where this will function very well for our internal payroll, but the city staff is doing the WRS payroll taxes as an organization. So that has to be, right now it's hand entered. We need to figure out a way to kind of automate that. Derek's been working with Max on trying to get that done as well. The other option was looking at BSNA is what the city's using. Looking at BSNA for doing the utility function, that doesn't integrate well on the billing side. For when we're putting out water bills, doing the reach badger meter and then putting out the bills, that doesn't work. It's a disadvantage doing that. So there's a bit of a hiccup, if you will, or a gap. It's where do you put that gap? We felt that putting it at the payroll side, which there's some room for improvement there, made the most sense.
Michael, do you think is it typical that organizations run two separate?
It's not unusual. Yeah, you may have more experience with other communities.
For utility billing, definitely. I mean, BSNA does offer utility billing. I included that as part of the quote. So, I mean, it would kind of be a waste to spend $50,000 in 2020 and then implement new utility billing software in 2022.
Real sunk cost though, so.
When you mentioned making a mistake, I don't think that would be the way to characterize it. I think the error is not having a comprehensive discussion for the finances overall of the city. Now we're back to a sunk cost of $50,000 for the utility billing side, and we didn't have those conversations to look at that comprehensively. That process has begun. I know Max and Derek have taken a look at whether BSNA can work with the metering software and things like that. I think we do need to loop the IT manager in and have some conversations before we pull the trigger on this, because obviously my fear would be we're foreclosing on options for efficiency of having one central payroll for one. But maybe there's other efficiencies to be gained with one central financial software in general. I don't know the particulars of all of this and what's compatible with what, but I just think before we pull the trigger, we'll need to continue those conversations. But Derek and the team are absolutely right. I mean, we need to make a change from what we currently have. That's for sure. So this should remain in the budget, but I think before we come back to you with executing a contract or actually spending these dollars, we just need to make sure our eyes are wide open going into this and what it means and doesn't mean for those longer term discussions on consolidating. The low hanging fruit was payroll, IT. We made some really great progress on IT, the phone system. The very much more difficult conversations as well as implementation are any broader goals that we have for full functional consolidation. And I know Board Member Richards has talked about that. Are we really maximizing our efficiencies if we're not putting people in the same buildings, in the same space, in the same work delegation and things like that? It's conversations I'm certainly not prepared to have, but want to make sure that the low-hanging fruit here, if this is what that is, we're taking a look at just so we're not foreclosing on those options.
So we should really be looking at this as a placeholder capital allotment rather than a definitive decision at this point?
Well, yeah, I think you should include it in your budget, and we may come back and have the same exact recommendation as before you, but I just want to make sure we're deliberate about, kind of who's on first.
That's discussions going on right now, right?
Yeah, it has initiated, yes.
Buying a coffee,
Bob, you got any thought on that? You run a small business, you know how this.
Well, yeah, I run a small business and I understand the whole, having the find the right software that you need. You can't always do one specific software. So getting that software that keeps it. this sounds to be the same kind of thing where you're trying to crash pieces of it. So, I think the big issue right now is trying to combine services and how, estimate that all. So, I agree with him. Well, basically, there's more study that needs to be done to figure out is this correctly.
One of the main reasons for kind of creating this board was to not necessarily force the marriage, but make sure we force the conversations to make sure that, again, we're going in and doing these things and with eyes wide open. I mean, for us to have redundant payroll seems like we could do better. I don't know technologically if that's easy or difficult or impossible. But we want to be able to have those conversations and not, not significantly put more obstacles in place to those conversations unwittingly. And I did not want to waylay the conversation on item number 1 because you guys have a ton of work to do today on the CIP.
I think we can move on, but we just assume that at some point we'll have a more heated, or not heated, but a more robust conversation on the, maybe heated, who knows, on the merits of a single versus a dual track software platform.
Yes.
I do think there is a benefit to if you get software that you're collecting data, which is not said it does here. The other side of that is them handling the accounting aspect of the meter readings. That should be a seamless transfer as best as possible. So if two civic products together accomplish that, I think there's a great benefit there. Trying to put something else in there that requires a lot more human input to take that data. More chances for error as opposed to additional transfer.
Well, we pay people to figure.
All right, so right now I'm currently manually entering all of our revenue, receivables, and cash receipting. Yes. And I did used to work with BSNA on my previous job, so I'm all aware of it. I do think this software is better. I think it offers more features.
You guys can figure it out, right?
Okay. All right, thank you.
Good conversation.
Next we'll have Darren up.
Good morning, everyone. First item on my agenda is the replacement of 2 utility vehicles. Like the description says, one is the oldest vehicle in the fleet, looking to update it with a newer model with a liftgate. Treatment plant has a pickup truck now. They basically use it for sampling purposes. They're looking to replace that with a smaller SUV. They find value in having all the equipment in an enclosed area for when they go out and do their sampling. They estimated right around $35,000 for each vehicle. I went a little high on that one based off of last year's purchases. I haven't shopped around for any standard pickup trucks like this and smaller SUVs since I've been here, so that's kind of what I estimated those at. Trade-in or sold at auction, not sure. Sometimes they give us crazy money on trade-in, helps them seal the deal. Last year we did really well on judging if we were going to trade it in or sell it at an auction, and we go either way on those.
5,000 is, seems like, horse and buggy. I thought pickup trucks these days are like 70 grand.
Yes, they are, but we're looking at work truck more. It's 2-wheel drive, it's standard cab, it's not a lot of bells and whistles. It is going to be a 3/4 ton, and they give the government pretty good rates when they're shopping around on these. So last year we bought a plow truck, a brand new snow plow, is right around that category. This one's going to have a lift gate on the back, so similar as far as the feature would go, but they're pretty good deals for for us when we're looking for just a basic stock truck.
The last standard pickup, I think it was in the high 20s.
It's just it. I'm hearing some real horror stories out there right now. And then you're not gonna get it for 3 or 4 months if you can.
Oh, yeah.
Turn at 35. Not even getting tires with them.
I have a question for Mike. What about leasing? I know Ted mentioned that at one time that the city was leasing trucks and cars. I'm not sure what type, but is it possible for utility to take a look at leasing some of this type of information?
We could lease, but there's no financial advantage for us to lease. We've always had a program of replacing vehicles on a schedule. And so maintaining that and having that funded is just financially better.
Well, you don't end up with a lot of the maintenance cost. You lease it, they take care of it. You have no expense for, the 10 or 12 years to maintain and keep it up. And I'm just wondering if there's an advantage to maybe leasing some of this equipment.
Yeah, we have looked at that and we feel that buying them outright, it just is financially better. We don't do a lot of maintenance on the time that we've had the vehicles. Our oldest vehicle is scheduled to be 12 years old. We'll try and get rid of them before then. So we're replacing 1 or 2 vehicles a year in order to stay on that schedule. And that's just what we've done for a long time. It's worked out really well.
We've had really, really great success with our leasing program, but just as Mike said, if we had $400,000 set away in our budget every year already to replace 10 vehicles and all of our light duty fleet were replaced on a 5 or 7 year cycle, that would have eroded what we were attempting to do with a leasing program. So it's kind of one or the other. And if there is, similar to our squad cars, squad cars are a little different from a leasing perspective, obviously, because they depreciate so quickly. But we have, I don't know, what's the number, $160,000, $180,000, I think, for, 4 squads or whatever the case may be every year. If we would have had that cash replacement locked in our budget capacity, that you would have gotten the ancillary benefits of maintenance and maybe some newer vehicles, maybe a year or 2 quicker than if you were cash replacing them, from a leasing standpoint. But we probably wouldn't have pulled that trigger. I think the numbers were our average light duty fleet age was like 2004. And in a matter of 3 or 4 years of leasing, that average is like 2016. Well, we would have never been able to do that, without leasing, because we don't have the requisite amount of a cash accrual or capacity of cash to baked into our budget to replace those with cash. Does that make sense? So there are benefits to the leasing program, but we were starting in a deficit position, and it seems like the utility has a cash schedule that they can make these vehicle purchases outright. A little different scenario.
Any
other questions on the vehicles? I will get them with tires and wheels, Dale.
I did have something I was going to beat you up on. That was the replacement of the standby generator. What do you mean you want to replace a 50-year-old generator? You should be able to get 100 years out of that. Are you stacking again?
I apologize. Yeah, that one is, I was kind of shocked by the age on that one. If you guys are wondering, I believe that was the 4th item on here. So we have a standby generator. For us, it powers our lift stations when there's a power outage. And if anybody knows anything about the lift stations, it's what takes the sewage out of the pipes. And if you have a power outage, that can be bad. So most recently, we had our generator out running for 10 hours overnight. It's a very old, very loud, very inefficient generator. And like Dale said, it is 51 years old. So we can get something that is a lot more efficient, a lot more dependable, and it's something that when you need it, you're going to want it, and you have to have it. If we skip back to the second item, this is an annual thing, replacing residential water meters. This is just to get our stock up. That's what we're foreseeing having to replace this year. So that was 47,500 for 225 meters to get us back up to our anticipated 450 meters that will replace next year.
Sorry. Are we turning around and hearing any scuttlebutt as far as, that lack of supply on meters or anything like that?
No, it's a little delayed. Things that used to take 3 weeks are maybe taking 4 to 5, but we're not months out. We haven't seen any supply issues yet on meters. Yep. Great. The next item, this is one of our 2 dump trucks. So this year we are replacing our larger dump truck. This is for the smaller dump truck, which is about the same vintage. So like stated, it is 20 years old. With our specialty vehicles, we like to keep those on about a 20-year cycle. It is in need of quite a few repairs. So we estimated at being about, $25,000 to repair it. And just to keep up with the specialty vehicle replacement program, we are at about the age where we should look into replacing that one. So that's why this one's on there. Same thing, we're doing some shopping around. It would be about a $70,000 replacement value.
Sense.
And then the last item on mine is putting more money away into the reserve fund for our sewer machine. It's something we do every year. Replacement value, we're estimating at around $500,000. So we're just going to keep building that reserve so it's not one lump sum when it's time to replace that, roughly in 2024.
Mike, do you have, I see you broke it up below for the combined amounts. Maybe in the future we could do that by, feel free what.
Oh, distribution total? No, I don't. No, we just have it utility wide. I can break that out by area.
Go back a couple years. I can imagine it's widely different than that. But.
Any questions?
Good.
Thank you, Darren. Thank you.
I got a couple here. First one is electronic listening device. This is part of our satellite leak detection, but we've been using our outdated leak detector that we listen to the radio stations on. This is finding some new equipment so that we can go after these leaks a little better than what we have been doing. We finally got some guys out to demo some equipment. We're liking a sewer model. It has the capability of doing both the leak detection and correlation. Correlation, you listen on 2 separate valves and it calculates the distance between those valves of where you might have a leak. Then you take the listening device, listen over that area and pinpoint it. It really speeds up our process in trying to find these rather than just walk around from valve to valve and trying to listen to hear something. So like that aspect of it, finding these leaks has been a lot more difficult than we originally had anticipated. These are pinhole leaks that we're looking for. So getting the right equipment is going to help us. We got a budget in here, $25,000. The model that we're looking at, sewer model is about $18,000. So.
Is that, Brian, is that used specifically with the satellite detection, or that can that be used for just oddball stuff every day?
It can be used for all of our leaks.
We currently hire a leak locator on difficult leaks at $500 a pop to come in and do basically this with his equipment. So now we could do this with this equipment. So yeah, serves dual purpose for sure.
Questions on that one? Next one is a new GPS unit. Replacing the existing GPS unit that we have. That equipment was purchased in 2013. This is just upgrading the equipment. Been a lot of advances in GPS and electronic technology in the last 8 years. And we also want to get on a WISCORS system, which is the same system the state uses, county uses, city uses. And we have a base unit now that we have at the office that we go off of. The WISCOR system is established throughout the state. Get better satellite connection than what we have now, so. Looking at cost of $36,000 for this one. We did miss out on discounts on this one already from when we priced this out earlier in the year. Trimble's raising prices pretty quickly here, so. And it's something we're using a lot more. We locate all of our fittings, and we also use it for our digger's hotline if we can't find it with the locator.
So I'll handle the treatment plant projects or treatment plant work that's going on. Mike Roby's out of town. The first one is a low-lip roof replacement. That's the original roof on that low-lip building, the pump station down there. It does leak on the east side of the building. It sort of arcs down. We've tried to work on it and rehab it best we can. It's time for a rebuild down there. It's 25 plus years old. That's $80,000 for that. And that's a quote that he got from a contractor. So we feel confident in the number. Felt with the low to me, but we feel confident in the number. So next one is replacement of the sludge pumps. There's a picture in the packet as well. The sludge pumps, we've got a sludge collection in our, what we call a pre-treatment building. Outside of the main building, there's a sludge collection. We collect all the sludge off of our block and set basins. That gets pumped out to MMSD. These sludge pumps are taking that material and sending it out. They're original to the building. We have replaced the shafts and other parts of the pumps over the years, but the impellers, the pump castings themselves are original. The big point here is we get charged for our bill from MMSD based on the hours of the runtime hours of the pump by how much that pump capacity is estimated to be. Now that these pumps have worn out, they don't pump nearly as much as they used to, which means they're taking longer to pump. So we're getting sort of ironically charged more than we need to be. So updating these pumps is going to lower that bill for us. So that's a big improvement.
Absolutely.
Okay, the next one is plant communication upgrade. This is a smaller project. The communications we have out to our security gates and out to that pre-treatment building is very poor. Within the plant, it's very poor. We need to upgrade that $8,000 project in order to handle that. Get some better speakers, put some better two-way communication at the gate so we can actually talk to the people that are trying to come in, and then have communication for the operator in that pre-treatment building. Right now, we have a cordless phone that we carry. They walk into that other building and it doesn't function any longer. So we need to get a little something in there. Don't need a lot, just need a little something. The next one is the Coagulant Control Center. There's some pictures of that cabinet in here. We use that to gauge how much coagulant we should add to the water prior to it getting to our filters. There's 2 pilot filters in there, or 2 devices that simulate what the filter would do with that water that helps the computer gauge how much coagulant to put in. This is in a very humid environment in our flow split room, and this cabinet is, I don't know, I think it's 20 years, next year it'll be 23 years that it's been here, and it's just starting to fall apart. So we'll look at some other options, stainless steel, aluminum, something else that can handle it. We can't do plastic. We need the structure to hold the equipment that's in there, but we'll look at something different. And you can see in the one picture, the floor is all rotting out, and then you can see some of the rot along the sides as well.
I think Roby's been hanging around Darren too much, but let Mike know that I appreciate his pictures much more so than Baker Tilly's.
I do love pictures for seeing some of that equipment visualized.
The picture in itself.
That's one of those pictures, that's the sausage making you don't necessarily want to see, right?
Right.
Water is.
The next item is replacement of the janitor station valve. We call it a Golden Anderson valve. It's a valve downstream of the pump that controls the flow, that allows the pump to start slowly and stop slowly. That valve there, again, it was put in 1980 or so. It's been eroding away. We've rebuilt the inside of it numerous times. We're not able to do that any longer. It's time to replace that valve. That pump is actually locked out now due to this condition that we can't use that pump. So we need to get on that. $16,000, again, a relatively small item. And those are the treatment plant items. So then we'll call Brian back up for the big dollars.
All right, we'll start off with some sanitary sewer work. Do a sanitary sewer relay on Fifth Avenue and American Avenue. This is an area that was found in the sanitary master plan that is in draft form yet of a capacity issue. So being an older neighborhood as well, we probably have a lot of homes that are connected up with sump pumps, downspouts, no storm sewer in the area. So finding a capacity issue in that area. We have not had any issues in that area, but model showing it's imminent. So
is everyone on city sewer there? Is there septic systems in there?
yeah, everybody's on city sewer there. We will have to deal with the railroad with this project as well. So we're going underneath the lovely American Bridge. So looking at $350,000 for this. This work.
Reline. What did we reline down there like a summer or two ago? We were in the road.
There was a section of American that was going to be lined with our rehab project this year that we pulled out because of this future project. We took out the house that was down there and we demoed the house. We were in the road abandoning the laterals last year.
It's in there. We'll be in the roadway, Brian, or in the terrace, or what?
We'll be in the roadway. Yes. The plan for this, because of the MMSD project that the city's working on, hauling all the dirt to the Peter Cooper site, this would probably be a design next year, and then the work would be happening the following year, depending on when that MMSD project and all the dirt moving is completed. So.
Mike, or Andrew, do you recall what's our plan for upgrading Fifth Avenue eventually? Yes. So this will be done before that happens.
Yeah, there's a minor, there was budget in the tax increment district project plan. It's probably inadequate, but some early engineering estimates we put in there. We don't know if that's full urbanization or what we'll want to do with that eventually or what we'll need as a result of Lakeshore Commons, but there is a placeholder in there and we know we'll have to improve Fifth Avenue here in the next probably 5 years.
Brian, when you said you're working with the railroad, is there any chance of an upgrade on that?
No, not with what I'm doing. Mine is just gathering permission to be in their area is all that I'm dealing with. So any updates, they'd have to come forward with that, or more than likely they'd want the city to be involved with improvements. So.
How does that happen? Is it something we request?
The only aspect that I've had with that is working on quiet zones and dealing with that because we're requesting that. It's 100% on us to make those changes and pay for everything.
It's actually developed into a dangerous area.
Absolutely.
You know, now that we have the get a lot of foot traffic. That's really a constricted area there for somebody to get killed, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, it would start with a request to Union Pacific Railroad, and our history, of course, dealing with the railroad is it's hard just to even get their attention. That is definitely a big bottleneck. We had looked at getting a pedestrian way solid, from South Chicago to the to Lakeshore Commons in Lake Vista Park because of the 4th of July festivities. But that's really our sticking point right there. There's barely enough room to get vehicles through there, much less a safe pedestrian way. But yeah, it would have to start with a request to UP Railroad, which we could do we probably should, start the dialogue. I mean, we've got, a number of contacts there. So maybe we start with a letter to them and see how they respond. And if we get nothing, then maybe it's a council resolution to them, seeing if that would be more, would probably would hold more water and maybe get them going in that direction. But that overpass it's been there for, oh my gosh, just decades and decades. And it's dangerous. I mean, I think there's pieces falling off of it. So yeah, right. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Start the process. Right.
Next one on the list is 2022 Sanitary Sewer Rehab Project. This is a continuation of our sewer rehabs based on our NASCO ratings and the camera and cleaning work that we do, taking the worst sections and seeing what we need to do to improve those sections. We are going to kind of focus on some lateral issues with protruding laterals this year, and also grouting some joints. I got some areas that I want to get taken care of with this, but we're going to see where that fits in our schedule and our priorities. We're creating a new list this year. So we're going through our last 5 years of cammering and creating a new list to see where our biggest priorities are that we need to go after. So looking at $250,000 for this project. Next one is Eastside Fiber Project. So we're going to work with the city. Hopefully the school district and city utility can all work together and get some fiber installed. City has budgeted some money as well, and we are looking to piggyback on that, trying to get fiber down to the plant, which would be a fantastic upgrade for us as well. Looking to budget $300,000 for that project. Next one is Forest Hill Manor subdivision. This is Falbeth, Griffin, and Verdev, replacing our 1960 6-inch cast iron pipe. We got about 2,200 feet to replace there, and 6-inch and some 8-inch PVC. And we have about 290 feet of 1962 cast iron. So we're getting rid of some of our older pipe that we have in the ground and some areas that have been problematic for us in the past year. We've had 31 breaks on this section over the years of this pipe being in.
31 breaks in what time frame, Brad?
That's going back probably 30 years.
This was that special assessment project we were talking about, wasn't it?
Make sure you park that back and dig it in front of Steve's house.
Yeah. Leave it idle.
Yeah.
We'll use the old generator on that one.
We unfortunately did Verdev, if my memory is right, paving wise, a few summers ago.
Yes, we did.
So what is our intent? Are we in the roadbed here as well, or terrace area?
In the road. And it's going to be a trench in the road. We looked at other sections. They're concrete sections. And we know from past experience on Wildwood, when we went in to do the concrete road, that we ended up losing the whole road. And working with the city on trying to get these done, we're trying to work so that we can get on the same page. So we're doing the concrete road when the city is going in to do their work, so we can work together on them. So we didn't want to get into a concrete section this year. This is one of our worst areas to go after for issues we've had. Unfortunately, yes, it is a section that was asphalted a few years ago.
So it reminds me, because I've seen this in other places we did this. What's our threshold for when we repave the full side versus we patch? In terms of how much asphalt we disrupt?
It really depends on how much gets damaged during that work. This being newer asphalt, we're hoping just to have the trench. So yeah, the trench is going over the water main with this work. You're gonna have the laterals coming off, so there'll be pieces coming off that. We can evaluate it too when we're going through this. Does it make sense to do, a surface coat, ML and overlay on
From a
it?
utility standpoint, you want to somewhat minimize the cost, but from a structural. Road is to see, get it, so. I've seen some spots where, building's not working, it's patched.
Mhm.
I want to make sure, Andrew, we're looking at whether or not our thresholds for disruption in the roadbed is adequate, that we're requiring the utility to repair the road enough after they're in it with this kind of project.
Yeah.
So,
Everything be just like new construction, so it's all gonna be granular backfill, compacted up, and then our standard
I
asphalt
know,
lift on top of it.
sometimes
So,
it's like 3 feet wide and.
Yep.
Which,
yeah, every little lateral going off is gonna be a little 3-foot
I
trench.
think
I
That's,
think it's more impactful when we have a road project that we're not quite ready to do, but we probably should be ready to do. And we do a 3-foot strip as opposed to a whole lane or the whole road. I think that's more of the example that I've heard in the past on, doesn't this make sense, or do we need to look a little more critically?
yeah, I just want to make sure that if the utility is significantly disrupting the road, they're replacing
Yeah, we hear you.
the surface rather than patching it, so.
Yep.
Just make sure we got our thresholds are right there, so.
Brian, is there any concern about the laterals when you redo this?
No, we'll just tie into the existing laterals. So if any of the, connections are leaking at that point, normally it's where the box is where they're leaking. So we'll see that and we can repair those with this work.
Just go on that specialist.
When do you plan on starting this project?
This will be designed in the spring, so hopefully we can get going on this next summer.
Now I got time. Right?
We give 10% discounts if you start paying this year.
Interest rates go up next year.
Park that on a fence driveway.
Next one is a concrete roadway joint sealing. This is on the low lift drive, just doing some maintenance on that drive. We got weeds growing up in the joints, so I'm trying to get the joints cleaned out, maintain the existing concrete that we got. Trying to prevent doing a lot of work and a lot of base patching down there, and anticipating of things happening in the future here. So looking at $75,000 to do some joint sealing. Next one is putting in $1 million into the chlorine contact tank project. Hopefully we'll be able to construct this one of these days. We have added money here in 16, 17, 18, and 20. So we're just adding to the pot for when we're able to get PSC on board and get this thing built. Next one is Susan Drive. So we're laying 1,300 feet along Susan. This one has, it's a 1960 cast iron again. So some of our older main, we've had 9 breaks on this section in the last 20 years. 6 of those breaks in the last 11. So it's recent breaks that we're seeing on this one. Also, we'd like to get this done since we have Howell delayed now. We can have this work done and save one of those intersections a little bit for future work with Howell. It was anticipated that this one would be done as well shortly after Howell, but we're just flip-flopping those. $375,000 for that stretch. Next one is modifying electrical system down the treatment plant. Looking at changing what filters are on the emergency generator backup. It's something that's been talked about. We have electrical upgrades that we'd like to do. Again, if we could ever get those approved. This is something we'd like to do sooner rather than later. Looking at $35,000 to get the controller changed. So our filters 11 through 14 would be on the backup generator, and we'll be able to remove 1 through 4 off the backup generator. So just flip flopping which ones are on the generator. And that's all I have.
So the next sheet shows the projects in progress. I won't go through them all, but they just show you the projects that are currently being worked on and what the total budget and the remaining budget was on those different projects. If you have any questions, I can certainly answer them.
Where are we at with the PLCs?
PLC project is underway as far as materials are ordered. Contractor is supposed to be out next week to start laying out conduit, getting stuff prepped. They're anticipating it'll be probably first part of December that they actually get the PLCs in hand and start working on those. So materials are ordered, hopefully be here soon and get going on that. So
Christmas is coming.
it is.
What about the Centennial Drive sanitary sewer?
Centennial Drive sanitary sewer design is complete. We are working with DNR. I am struggling to get BMO Harris to get their authorization to sign the permit so that we can go to DNR. I keep moving up the food chain in BMO Harris. I'm dealing with a gentleman out of Chicago, and
All their buildings gonna fall on.
yeah, it doesn't seem to be a huge priority for them, so they're ignoring me. But I need their signature and approval because we're doing work on their property. DNR is saying that our drainage easement and sanitary sewer easement that we have on the property is not enough for the stream bank restoration work that we're doing, so we got to have them approve it, so.
So with that, it takes us to the cash flow sheet. And I had mentioned I dropped off an updated cash flow sheet to you. In the past, what we've done, this is a template that we've used for years. In the past, what we've done is we don't show the balance of the checking account on this sheet because our balance typically is around $2 million. We have a minimum balance to avoid fees of around $2 million. So it's an in and out, so it doesn't represent much on this sheet. However, this year, which is a little bit different, we have a larger balance in the checking account. It does affect the cash flow forecast here then. That larger balance is really due to the fact that LGIP interest rate is so miserable, we haven't been motivated to take much out. They're both protected, they're both secure, so there hasn't been a real need to send that out to the LGIP. So because of that, the balance has gotten to a place where it wasn't usually, and therefore needs to be represented on this sheet so you can see the full picture. And that's what that updated sheet is here. Additionally, the BMO Harris, you may know, that shifted from water to sewer. That should have been shown under the sewer. That's where that money is still residing. The water money's already been taken out. So that's the cash flow statement that shows.
Who's that, Mike? Sorry.
Oh, the BMO, the amount that's still left in BMO is allocated to sewer, not to water. The water investments have already come out. So,
Do you reflect on your cash flow statement the liability to the sewer side from water?
yes. Yes, it's called the interfund loan. So the interfund loan payment.
What's the balance on that right now, Mike? Is it obvious here?
No, it's definitely not obvious here. I would have to look. I don't know what that is.
Less than $1 million probably still?
Yeah, probably, because we have quite a few years to pay on that yet. I know there was a schedule set up of what the payment would be. So what this is attempting to show is the amount of money that's collected through the operating budget, through depreciation or net income. Then what are we spending down and where are our assets sitting at, cash assets. So the 15 million then on that next line, the carryover projects, that's those projects in progress. The water only. The 3.7 million total is the water and sewer capital budget that's proposed here today. And as you can kind of walk through the rest of this, then there's the interfund loan. We do have some debt payments coming in December, so we'll show next year's debt payments as well as that particular debt payment a little bit less down here in December. It shows all, the accounts, the checking account, BMO Harris account in the LGIP, and then some of the restrictions are less cash amounts, and shows you the balance at the bottom. Primarily indicating that there's funding to pay for this. We're not going negative on paying for these cash.
Can we tell BMO that we're going to pull our investment from them if they don't sign our paperwork?
Well, we have told them that.
Oh.
So yeah, we used to have quite a bit more, and as those investments come to maturity, they've been taken off. So. The last page is just a summary, but probably for reference, the first page that had, as well a summary that had the individual projects listed might be helpful as well.
Motion then.
Richards move to approve the 2022 water and sewer capital improvement plan budget as listed.
Bill second.
Roll call.
Gill, aye.
Okay.
Richards, aye.
Yeah.
14. Motion to approve us to establish park in the law outside of East.
Just pull your mic closer, Mike, if you will. I don't know if it's on, actually.
Parking signs. Hello, okay. Yeah, I requested the no parking signs along this stretch. The Newberry subdivision apartments, residents of Newberry were having problems pulling out on Forest Hill because of residents across the street on the South Milwaukee side were parking next to that driveway with access to Forest Hill, and they were right on top of that driveway, and you had to actually get out on the roadway to access Forest Hill, so it's going to be a lot safer situation. And you didn't have any comments from the residents, Mike?
Actually, we did, and I was trying to share my screen, but I'm having a little trouble. But we did. We sent out notices to the apartments, and then to the adjacent property owners. We received 5 comments back. 4 of them were in favor, and 1 had expressed opposition, had a number of questions, Ashley responded to those questions, and we didn't hear back as far as continued objections. Basically, it was, okay, thank you for the information. So I guess based on that, I mean, we think that this makes sense to to proceed, and therefore that is the recommendation.
You also even reached out to South Milwaukee's city engineer, and he didn't have any objections.
Right. Yeah, good point, Dale. Yes, thank you. When we got these comments back, and even part of the original request was that the vehicles that are parking appear to be accommodating properties on the north side of Forest Hill, which is South Milwaukee. So we are not crazy about the fact that the South Milwaukee residents are affecting our residents now. Overall, traffic and safety, we care about the South Milwaukee residents just as much as ours, but kind of feel like that's their issue, and we don't feel like the need is for Oak Creek to accommodate. The request also said that the condition has increased over the last year. So there's been a something put out there that potentially somebody on the north side of the street is running some kind of a business out of there. And that is where these vehicles are parking. And they're not just parking along the side of the road in the shoulder. They are actually parking in the taper lane that comes off of the entrance to the apartments. So it makes for a dangerous condition. The people need to kind of creep out so that they can see around these vehicles and make sure it's clear before they pull out. So I think there's a lot of arguments in favor of installing this no parking zone.
That is actually, that was accurate, Mike. That's what's going on the north side, the South Milwaukee side. There are two people that are running businesses out of their home, and they're parking their pickups or some equipment at times too. They can't fit them in their driveways on the north side, so they park them on the south side.
Take care of that problem.
I'm going to make a motion to approve a request to establish no parking on the south side of East Forest Hill Avenue from the west property line of 3401 East Forest Hill Avenue to South Chicago Road.
Richards will second.
Roll call.
Yellen.
Holman, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Richards, aye.
Before we go to adjournment, I think, Ted, would this be your last meeting with us?
It is.
So happy retirement, and enjoy a safe and healthy and happy retirement. I know we talked on the side and you're going to be doing some travel, right?
A little bit, yeah, I'm going to try.
All right. Awesome. Congrats and enjoy retirement. Stay healthy.
Thank you, appreciate it.
If I could, I'd like to just sneak in a couple items.
We also go back to 11 and 12. Remember, we punted those down the list to get through the CIP.
Where I wanted to go.
Okay, perfect.
All right. 11.
So 11 is the investment summary. Nothing too shattering there. You can notice LGIP at 0.05%, rather miserable.
And that looked pretty straightforward, and that's where you can clearly see we got a debt payment coming up. So I was more interested in the operations end of the business. On 12. Okay, we already talked about the problem on Lawson Avenue with the water looping under the tracks. Talked about the low lift drive with the leaks. Okay, Darren, just it seems like 3 areas for you on the gold sheet. One was the flush emergency connections, operate valves, and check remote water mains. You're into that already right now, aren't you, or no?
Yeah, they're scheduling. All right. Yeah, we're currently scheduling, hopefully this week, possibly next week, flushing the emergency connections. We have been in talks with South Milwaukee on that. Valve operations, we're hoping to get back into that. It was a busy summer and we broke a lot of stuff. So we've been fixing a lot of stuff and we've been hesitant to get back in and break more stuff. So, and the remote mains are going to be starting next week. So this week we kind of started winterizing the fire hydrants because the weather's starting to change. So trying to get a push on those going. So, yep. Sure.
And any idea how bad we're going to get? No, not if you don't. Any idea how bad we're going to get hit with chemical bids?
We had a scare on Coagulant. It went up significantly, but then backed off. There was a mistake made. Thankfully, it was more than double. Thankfully, it was that was the price of a half load. If we take the full semi load, full tanker load, then that went down to, it was a couple percent. It was maybe 5% higher than what we're paying now. It was a far more reasonable number. So we're very happy. Mike was also really concerned, particularly with Coagulant, because he locked in a 2-year deal. And he thought, well, after you lock in the deal, when it comes to the end of that, they're really going to hit you hard. And they didn't, so that's good. What's helping us is that consortium of water utilities that bids out the chemicals as a group. We're not obligated to take those prices, but we do generally get pretty good prices from that. So I'm pretty happy with it. So yeah, so far, the numbers are not coming back terrible.
And I was going to make a comment about the free fill that, you know, I'm more of a guy for doing the tipping fees and collecting some of the money, but since it's coming from the district, it's probably a big win-win situation. And then I see there was this unified group of mayors and engineers will facilitate federal funding applications for projects that rehabilitate and secure Lake Michigan shorelines. Can you give me any more of an update of what that means?
This is a group that's been put together by many of the cities that front along Lake Michigan, coming together as a group represented by an engineer that will advocate for securing dollars for projects that will stabilize shorelines, protect infrastructure. And, you know, of course, we are very interested in being part of that. And Mayor Bukowitz is on that group. In fact, by the end of this week, we need to fill out the form for you know, what our potential needs are that this group can help us with to secure funding. Appleton is in there, Green Bay is in there, Sheboygan is in there. So, yeah.
We looking to do anything more with bluff stabilization? I mean, a lot of that work is already done, but.
Right. So, you know, this dirt that we're getting, we are going to use it to clean soil cap the upland area. We are going to stockpile excess in anticipation of a project that we've been under design on for some time now, which would be the stabilization of that bluff. That bluff is really eroding away along the Peter Cooper frontage. And not only that, and then across those neighboring properties to the south, one of which is Hynite and one of which is Canal, and we're working with those property owners as well. And
Hynite still doesn't own that property, do they?
Hynite does own the property still,
They
yes.
still do?
Yeah, right, yep. And then, but also bringing it all the way then to the utilities facility. And I mean, that's part of what will help secure additional funding dollars, because we're protecting a pretty big asset by securing that shoreline as it wants to come from the north side and a roadway. So,
are these companies still existing? I mean, Hynite has been closed for 30 years.
There is, you know, I mean, I don't think it's, I'm trying to think of what I think it's called Fifth Properties LLC. So, you know, it's not the Hynite company. It's somebody that acquired that property. But we are in contact with them. It's, you know, it's spotty, the correspondence with these properties, because they're vacant properties. And I think that these landowners have other things going on as well. So,
and the concerns of contaminated soils.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, there's big dollars in when these property owners are you know, they're held accountable for these. So, you know, on the one hand, you have lakeshore bluff-top property, very attractive, but then you have the legacy contamination to deal with. So,
that was always the issue, that these property owners would just as soon pay the tax bill because it was a much cheaper financial venue versus turning around and cleaning up the property.
Yeah, that's right. That's the way it is today still.
You know, we need to do, the city is the only one that's going to be able to resolve that. You know, looking at doing projects and.
Is this still looking into liability issues down there, Andrew?
Yeah, so there's a couple constituent parts here. There's a cost recovery action, which we're looking at for the Peter Cooper piece. I don't believe High Night, which is now Fifth Properties LLC, has a lot of the same contamination issues as, say, Canal would. But certainly we've been in conversations with Fifth Property LLC as well. That's a developer looking to develop that property eventually. The Canal property is actually under a Department of Justice action right now. They're going back and forth with the state on what is the type and scope of remediation of those properties that impacts our, utility corridor as well. That's kind of in play with that discussion. So there's a lot going on in between what we own to the south and what we own to the north. But that bluff stability project should be one that, at a minimum, is a cooperative effort, because we're not just going to do the remnant Peter Cooper North Bluff, and we happen to work with High Night or Fifth Properties LLC, and then there's a gap between that and the south Lake Vista. So the idea is to coordinate that solution for a contiguous stretch of property there, and all property owners have signaled an indication to work with us, especially if we're going to stabilize the bluff for them. But we're weighing that right now. But there is a cost recovery action in play for some legacy insurance policies and things that might be out there. That's a long, arduous process.
I guess that's where I wanted to plant the seeds. Like what we were just talking about, that this consortium of mayors along the lakefront, that with this infrastructure bill coming out, that we plant seeds all the way up the food chain, that we're looking for money to turn around, remediate these potential issues with these properties adjacent to Lake Michigan.
So one would hope that additional funds are available, especially for Great Lakes communities. I don't know. I have not seen the infrastructure bill, and I don't think we understand that. Hopefully there's certainly additional pots of money, or expanded scope of money of pots that already existed. We will chase down all of those options as a backup plan. As some of you may be aware, next week, Tuesday and Wednesday, are really critical, because we are going through a massive TID donation and closure strategy. The TID donation strategy really borrows from very highly successfully performing tax increment districts that have little or no obligations left. They have excess increment, and donating that to the lakefront. Over the course of the next, I think it's like 8 to 10 years, that should provide up to $21 million of capital for those environmental projects on the lake. That doesn't mean we're going to quit looking for free money out there, or matching monies, because we certainly will. And Sue does that. Sue Winnan in the engineering department does that very well. So we always have our eyes on that. If I could just make a comment or two on some of the staff succession planning that we talked about. Talked a little bit about Mike leaving and Ted leaving. Mike being replaced by Matt created a vacancy with the assistant city engineer position. Ashley Kipchinsky, who is currently our design engineer, has been promoted to that position. So that really leaves us a backfill of one engineering position to figure out and backfill. The DPW is a little bit of a different animal. We were weighing options for that over the last several months. Ted gave us plenty of time to plan for his retirement, as did Ralph. And we have hired an interim director of public works, a gentleman, colleague of mine in the city management profession by the name of Matt Trebetoski. Matt was the former clerk treasurer, the former city manager of the city of Fort Atkinson, former city administrator in the city of Oconomowoc as of more recently. He's in transition right now between jobs, and we've strategically talked with him about him filling gaps that he has and us filling gaps that we have, really to take a surgical look at using Matt's perspectives in various communities, really taking a look at the way we deliver services, the structure of the DPW, the relationship with other departments, including the utilities. Matt has a strategic assignment here to provide us with a lot of kind of outside perspective and intelligence on the way we do things. And maybe we create a game plan, maybe we affirm the way we do things, and for all intents and purposes, probably just affirming the way we do things, because we do get a lot of really excellent work out of Public Works, very dedicated crew out there. So that's a strategic interim hire for a duration of 9 months. We'll kind of see where it goes. Eventually Matt's going to want to be a city manager again. I don't think we ascend to the city manager ranks and then we really look to, we'll look to a department director position in Public Works. So we'll see where his career takes him. And in the meantime, I think we'll get some really good work and perspective out of Matt. We will then have a vacant DPW assistant with Ralph's retirement December 1. That process is going forward as we speak. Tomorrow we have interviews. I'm very hopeful that all of us on the interview panel, which includes myself, I've asked Matt coming in to attend and be a part of that panel, and then 2 folks from engineering. I hope we can really agree and feel real confident in offering a position to one of those internal candidates. But if that's not the case, we'll have some contingency plans in mind to bridge that gap as well. So a lot going on. And then we're through 2021 retirements and we can start focusing on police chief, HR. And I know the police and fire commission is already focusing in on the police chief recruitment. So a lot of changes, a lot of faces are going to change in the next several months. All I had. Yep, thanks.
Not related to, I was looking at your production report. You have a feel for the sustainability of the production increase this year, pumpage increase this year?
Yeah, I don't think it is. It's a little bit due to growth. It's a lot due to the year. We have a very dry year. And I think everyone has had increases as a result of that. So the big numbers here, the peak numbers and things like that, the 17%, that's not going to continue going forward. It could maintain around those numbers, but it's not going to have that kind of growth. The yearly pumpage, though, at 5% increase, we've been close to that. We've been, I would say, 2 to 5 in the last several years, while the average there is 6.3. So I think we're doing better than 6.3 than the average. What we've seen is every year it's gotten a little bit higher and higher. This year had a bit more of a jump. I don't think it's going to be quite the same, but I don't think we're not going to drop a lot next year.
Questions?
I'll move to adjourn.
Gill, second. Roll call. Gill, aye.
Holman, aye. Guzekowski, aye.
Richards, aye.
Aye.